Good evening, members and officers of the Council and members of the press and public. I welcome you to this meeting of the Council. If the fire alarm is activated, please vacate the offices via the stairs, either through the security doors to my right or opposite the lifts in the foyer. Please do not use the lifts. Please assemble in Hawley Square on the Green, and officers will assist you and advise you when it's deemed safe to return to the chamber. The proceedings of this meeting will be recorded and subsequently broadcast on the internet. I would advise, if any filming takes place, anyone in the attendance of the public areas may have their image captured, and I would urge anyone filming proceedings to avoid filming members of the public, particularly if there are children present. Does anyone intend to film the proceedings? Thank you very much. If any member of the public doesn't actually want to run the risk of being captured on film, you may leave if you so desire. Any filming or recording will not be permitted for any item of business where exempt or confidential information is considered, following the exclusion of the press or the public from that meeting. And would everyone present please ensure their mobile phones are turned to silent and that they are not used to make or receive phone calls in the chamber whilst the meeting is in progress. Before we make any further progress, it is very warm in here. If gentlemen or ladies indeed who might be wearing a second layer, double jackets, if you wish to remove your jackets, please feel free to do so. It is rather warm. So move then to agenda item none. Apologies for absence. We have apologies from Councillor Beverley Martin. Are there any other apologies to be recorded? Thank you. Councillor Day. Councillor Coleman Cook. Thank you. Agenda item number 2, the minutes of the previous meeting held on the 12th of May 2016. I move the minutes of the annual meeting of Council held on the 12th of May 2016 be approved and signed as a correct record. Would the Vice Chairman please second?
Seconded, sir.
Do members agree? Thank you. I'm sure members would wish to join me in welcoming Councillor Roy Potts to the meeting. Congratulations, Councillor Potts, on your recent election to represent the Newington ward. I must also mention with regret that former Councillor Paul Archard has recently passed away. Mr. Archard was a councillor in Beacon Road ward between 1995 and 2007. I am sure Council will want to join me in expressing sympathy to Mr. Archard's family. Could all members please stand for a minute's silence as a mark of respect for the late Mr. Archard. Are there any members who would like to say a few words? I'll start please with Councillor Bayford.
Yeah, thank you, Chairman. I think that Paul Archard epitomised what a good councillor should be. He cared about his town, he cared about the residents, he always talked common sense and he approached everything with a good humour. He was definitely one of the good guys.
Thank you. Councillor Metterfield.
Thank you, Chair.
like many people here, I never served on the council with Councillor Archard because he lost his seat in 2007 and he was too ill in 2011 to go through the process again. However, I had known him, like Councillor Bayford, for many, many years because he was an absolute stalwart of the Broadstairs and St Peter's branch of the Labour Party. Paul was a unique position. There was one year in 1996 when Paul was elected the one and only ever Labour Mayor of Broadstairs. And at that time, he was Mayor of Broadstairs and St Peter's. Jackie Coppock, who is still with us, was Mayor of Ramsgate. And Charlie Young, who passed on some years ago, was Mayor of Margate. So a trio of Labour councillors elected as mayors. Paul was very much a man of the people. He was Labour to his fingertips. He greeted everybody as hello mate, whoever you were. And I have this lovely picture, I never actually saw it happening, of Paul in his mayoral chains going to some very swanky do, going up to some stuff shirt and say, hello mate, fancy a pint. He loved his beer and he loved his jazz music, and I think it was appropriate that at his funeral last Friday there was jazz at the beginning and there was a classic folk song at the end. I think that summed up Paul completely. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Hayton, please.
Thank you very much, Chairman. I knew Paul Archard when I joined the County Council and attended the council meetings at Broadstairs and St Peter's. And one of those times was when Paul was actually the Mayor of Broadstairs and St Peter's. And he was a splendid mayor, not my kind of mayor, but he was a splendid mayor for the people he represented the whole of Broadstairs and St Peter's. He had a humour that Councillor Matterpace has talked about, but he also gave me the impression he didn't care, to me anyway, what politics I had. He was a friend and he was a councillor, town councillor, the same as I was, and we got on very well together. And as Councillor Matterpace has suggested, he looked after his people in Beacon Ward, and I regret that he's passed away so young, as far as I'm concerned anyway. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you, members. I'm sure Mr Archer's family... Oh, a bit more? Would you like to say that?
Thank you, Chairman. Yes, Councillor Archard. Somewhere in the dim and distant past, I was Cabinet Member for Planning and Transportation, which meant I couldn't be Chairman of the Planning Committee, which came as a great loss to me, so Paul Archard became Chairman of the Planning Committee. And a fairer, more even-handed Chairman I have never seen. Dedicated to planning, so dedicated, in fact, that I do remember one day coming back from planning site visits, he actually got a speeding ticket because he went past the speeding camera by the Westbrook Day Hospital, and afterwards came to me. He said, "You're chairman of, you're cabinet member. Can you get me off this ticket?" And I said, "It's not me, mate. It's the Kent Police." "Oh God," he said, "they'll have me for definite." In actual fact, I think he did argue his way off of it, but I owe a great debt of gratitude to Paul Archard because he introduced me to real ale. And as has been spoken before, Paul Archard he knew everything about ale. And he tried to teach me, but I'm carrying on his memory by still trying to learn.
Thank you very much. I'm sure Mr Archer's family will be very pleased to hear of the warm words that have been spoken on his behalf at this meeting this evening. Thank you very much for all those contributions. Agenda item number 4 then, the declarations of interest. Are there any declarations of interest we need to record? B. Yeah.
Thank you, Chairman. On behalf of myself and the Chief Executive, can I declare an interest in item 12B, please? It affects myself, Chief Executive, and the Section 151 officer.
Thank you very much. Agenda item number 5, petitions to the Council. There have been no petitions received in accordance with the petition scheme. Item number 6, questions from the press and public. One question has been received from a member of the public in accordance with Council Procedure Rule number 13. Please note that only the questioner and the respondent are permitted to speak on this question, and if the questioner is not present at the meeting, the question cannot be put, but will be replied to in writing. Mr. Bell. Is Mr. Bell here? Thank you, Mr. Bell. Could you please only state your name and the Cabinet member to whom your question is to be put, and read out the exact wording that has been submitted? Would you come forward, please? Sorry, I should have done it first. Would members please refer to supplementary agenda item number 1? Thank you, Mr. Bell.
Thank you, and good evening. The question that I'd like to ask for the Council on behalf of Thanet Against Live Exports is, when the court ordered Thanet District Council to pay compensation, this is under the Live Exports compensation arrangements, the claimant stated their claim at 1.5 million. This has now risen to 4.7 million, plus costs estimated at 1.5 million. Will the Council now conduct an independent, publicly accessible inquiry into the handling of this claim? Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bell. I call upon Councillor Crowe-Brown to respond, please.
Thank you for your question, Mr. Bell. In answer to your question, there has already been an independent inquiry by way of a High Court hearing in 2014 into this claim, and the judgment is available on the internet. Since then, claims have been received from additional claimants, which have been settled on the basis of advice received from an independent specialist barrister. There is no justification or benefit to be gained in the Council spending further legal time and cost on a publicly accessible inquiry when the story, its cost to the taxpayer, some £4.6 million in claims and approaching £500,000 in legal cost, and the consequence to the local council's budget setting process. These are all freely available to read on the internet. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Crowe-Brown. Agenda item number 7, questions from members of the Council. One question has been received from a member of the Council. In accordance with Council Procedure Rule 14, we're still on the supplementary agenda, members, and the question is in relation to Invest Thanet Board minutes. I call upon Councillor Savage, please.
Thank you, Chairman. I've raised this question before. In the light of changed economic prospects facing the country, and Thanet principally are concerned, the work of Invest Thanet Board becomes increasingly important. The minutes of the last meeting are still unavailable, even though the meeting took place back on the 22nd of April. When will these minutes be available? Thank you, Chairman. I'd like to reserve the right to reply.
Thank you, Councillor Savage. I call upon Councillor Stummer-Schmertzing to respond, please.
Thank you, Chair, and I'd like to thank Councillor Savage for his question and for taking such a keen interest in Invest Thanet and what is going on there. I agree with him that this partnership of private and public sector partners will be an increasingly important regeneration tool going forward. It has been reviewing its activities to ensure it helps this area meet the economic challenges facing us. The minutes of the last meeting will be signed off at the next meeting, which will take place tomorrow on the 15th of July and will be published shortly thereafter. Thank you.
Councillor Savage, a supplementary question?
Yes. Thank you, Chairman. You see, the reason I ask this is because the usual long-established proposals that Invest Thanet has to attract business and employment to the area read more like a mission statement than plans for implementation. When UKIP came to office, their principal objective was Brexit. And with the outcome of the referendum behind us, it is surely time to put into action policies that safeguard and improve poor, deprived Thanet's prospects in the light of warnings from the Bank of England and the Institute of Fiscal Studies. Where is this plan of action, or is it like the National Party, there is no plan of action? Thank you, Chairman.
Councillor Stummels-Matching, would you like to respond?
Yes, Chair. I have a great deal of sympathy with what you're saying. I think one of the problems we've been facing is that meeting every 3 months is a very long gap between meetings, and maybe it's something we should look at, and that will hopefully give us a much faster way of moving forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Stummels-Matching. Returning then to the main agenda, agenda item number 8. 2 motions on notice have been received in accordance with Council Procedure Rule 3. 8A is a motion on notice in relation to pension inequality. I call upon Councillor Matterface, please.
Thank you, Chair. Seems I've got 5 minutes. That's more than I thought, so that I don't have to speak quite so quickly. Right, WASPI, what is it? Well, I can say what it isn't. It's not about turning the clock back to when women got their entitlement to a state pension at 60. I emphasise entitlement because that's what we're talking about, entitlement. It's about the way women in this age category have been treated by governments over the changes proposed initially in 1995 and subsequently in 2011, whereby those born after 1951 have to wait at least 6 more years for their pension. Many paid national insurance for over 40 years, and some women will lose up to £40,000 of income over the 6 years. Many of the 13,000 women in Thanet in this category have fractured work lives due to the nature of employment here. Part-time, low-paid, 0-hours contracts, no occupational or private pension due to family commitments, family finances, and both involving looking after children and possibly parents. Some are professional and may make the choice to continue in employment, but many don't have that choice, and we are talking about choice. Many women coming back into employment after a break are de-skilled, lacking confidence and awareness of modern employment requirements. Many are caring for elderly parents. Some still have children at school or university, and many look after grandchildren to enable parents to work. Many are caring for... Sorry, I apologize, I read that bit. If these women are forced to remain in employment because they have no choice, what work will they do? Many say they can only get work totally unsuited to their age, experience, and health. We have a number of scenarios here. 1, women who do an important role in family lives may be unable to fulfill that role due to working. Many look after grandchildren after school and in the holidays, as childcare is too expensive and often time limited. 2, women don't work and live in poverty, so the local economy suffers because they have no money to spend. 3, women who don't or can't work can't contribute to the family economy, like the school trips, the school uniform, or helping pay bills. 4, divorced women had settlements agreed on the assumption they would get a pension at 60. Divorce court judges need to be made aware of the need for change because many are not. They're not being trained, I understand, in the implications of that. 5, women who are disabled are doubly disadvantaged because they need extra help in many cases to be able to work, and employers are reluctant to take on any woman in her late 50s, let alone one with a disability. So, what am I asking TDC to do? I'm asking you to support the motion, but I'm also asking that the following action is given consideration. 1, to make representation to Damien Green, who is now the new Pensions Secretary today. 2, to contact both our MPs. Craig McKinley sat, things may have changed, on the Working Pensions and Benefits Commission. We'd like him to be more aware of what's going on. And thirdly, Theresa May, our new Prime Minister, is herself in the age category to be labelled a WASPy woman, and we would like TDC to contact her, making representations on behalf of the many women that we have met during this campaign. And we had a Saturday morning, very successful meeting with very good speakers where women were able to give us their stories and tell us how the changes to pensions, for many women, they did not know until they were 59 that they would not be getting their pension at 60. Thank you. So I am proposing this motion, and I'm going to call upon a seconder.
Councillor Matterface, could you please just read the motion out for us, please? If you would finish on the motion, that would be very helpful. Thank you very much.
Apologise. It's the first time I put a motion forward. So, Thanet District Council supports the national and local Women Against State Pension Inequality, the WASPy campaign. The campaign for better transitional arrangements for those women born after April the 6th, 1951, who now found they will receive their pension age 66 or even later, not age 60. According to the 2011 census, there are over 13,000 women between 50 and 64 living in Thanet. We need to ensure all women and their families in the affected age group are made aware of the implications of this change due to the impact on family life and the local economy, and wish to send a strong message to the Secretary of State for Work and Pensions, deploring his department's failure to alert women of the changes.
Thank you very much. Do I have a seconder, please?
I second. Oh, I second, and I reserve the right of reply, please.
Thank you. In accordance with the Council Procedure Rule 3.7, a member of the controlling political group is entitled to reply. So I call upon the leader.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Councillor Matterface, for your motion. Certainly on behalf of the controlling group here this evening, we don't have any issue with supporting this concept. Those of us who are old enough to remember how governments of various political hues argued this through over the last 25 or so years, we all always knew that there was likely to be a group of people who were going to get caught in this, and they were always likely to be women because of the equalisation of pension ages up rather than down. And governments of various political hues spent an awful long time telling us all that they're going to make adequate and appropriate transitional arrangements. And I think those of us who were a little bit cynical probably realised that that was very unlikely to happen. And so we get this particular group of women, I think as predicted, who have been caught in this transitional trap. And I think it is perfectly reasonable for any or all of us to support that those individuals should actually be better protected under those transition arrangements than they have been protected so far to date. So we will be supporting this motion, but I would have to say that as only Council can adopt this motion, it will fall if it is not debated. So I'd like to end my remarks by proposing that we do actually debate this motion here this evening so we can pass it and add it into our record.
I'd like to second that.
Thank you, Councillor Fairbrass. Would somebody like to begin the discussion then, please? Oh. My error. I'm sorry. I haven't asked you, members, whether you'd actually agree and like to debate the subject. Agreed? Thank you very much. Forgive my tardiness. I'd like to begin the debate.
Good evening, councillors, chairman and everybody here. Yes, obviously I fall under this WASPI being 59 or turning 59 last week. My main concern is the movement of the goalposts. A few years back, under the Labour administration, they decided to up it from 60 to 65. That was a bad enough shock. George Osborne, in his role as Chancellor and amongst other things, I can't remember the name of the Lord, but the Conservative Party used the same Labour peer as the Labour administration did. Now, they decided, the Conservatives that is, decided to bring the rises forward earlier. So consequently, I've gone from retiring at 60, moving up to 65, now it's moving 66. My concern is the fact that, is it just going to stop there, or every year are we going to be sweating in case they decide to bring it up further? It's moving the goalposts. It's like running a marathon. You're doing 26 and a bit miles, and the last mile is supposed to be the hardest in a marathon. Well, it's the same in the working life. Now, as you're getting near to the finishing line, we don't want that to be moved further back, so you end up running for 50 miles or more. So, you know, it's very unclear at the moment, and with this new government that we've got, we don't know if and when they're going to raise it again. So that's my concern, is it going to stay at this, or better still, can the new administration bring in a safety net, or, you know, a soft cushioning blow, ideally just to extend the period of introducing the retirement age of 66. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Grove, please.
Yeah, thank you, Chairman. Being the ripe old age of 68, I know what retirement's like. It's wonderful, and I don't personally see why ladies should be penalised at all. As far as I'm concerned, members, we know what we're all here for. We've all discussed it, and I think if anybody goes against this motion, I think will be a pretty bad show. So I would say that I fully support Councillor Matterface and her motion tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Ian Gregory, please.
Thank you, Chairman. I have to point out that, although I have a lot of sympathy with everything that Councillor Matterface has said and Councillor Larkins, we're supposed to be debating what actually says on the motion tonight. And my concern is that the motion is actually very poorly worded. It's as simple as that, really. The statements in the notice are, in fact, factually incorrect. It refers to women born after April the 6th, 1951, who will receive their state pension at the age of 66. And in fact, the first group of women to receive their pension at 66 will be those born between the 6th of October 1954 and the 5th of April 1960. In fact, no woman has received their pension at age 60 since the 6th of May 2010. The state pension age has been increasing on a monthly basis since then. Again, referring to the motion, women born on April the 6th to the 5th of May 1951 received their pension on the 6th of March 2012 at the age of 61 years and 1 month. But it mentions that that particular date in there, so again, that's erroneous. The second part of the motion also contains errors. It refers to the 2011 census and the 13,000 women between the ages of 50 and 64. Anyone of 64 in 2011 would have been born in 1947 and would have received their pension by now, because they obviously came to be 60 in 2007, and the pension didn't start increasing. The actual date for receiving the pension didn't start increasing until the 6th of July 2010. So they would have been receiving it for 4 years. That's how it reads. With regards to the Secretary of State for Work and Pensions failing to alert women, as it says again in the motion, the state pension age has been rising for the last 6 years. Many women have retired at an age later than 60. The government website states all the pension ages related to their birth dates. And the Pension Acts 1995, 2011 and 2014 have been widely written about in the newspapers. Apart from writing personally to each of the women affected, it's difficult to see what more could have been done. However, as I say, I'm not objecting to all the points that have been raised. I'm just objecting to the fact that the motion has been poorly drafted. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Constantine, you reserve the right to speak. Would you like to speak now? Oh, wait a minute. Well.
Oh, sorry.
Councillor Gamelin.
Thank you, Chair. I think that we would all agree that the 2011 Pension Act changes that accelerated the timescale towards the pension age equalisation was ill thought out, poorly communicated and obviously unwelcome. However, I have spoken to our MP, Craig McKinley, who is a member of the Work and Pensions Select Committee, and he, as you probably know, has been hugely active in looking for a workable solution. He has hosted a local WASPI conference and has been regularly meeting with campaigners over many months. What is needed is a single agreed position by WASPI, as there are mixed messages coming out of the campaign. Clearly, returning to a pension age of 60 is unworkable, sexist and unfair, but there are proposals they are looking at. Some of the proposals will be possibly a rebanding of job seekers' allowance for the women caught between 60 and the revised pension age, a lighter touch system so that they could get that benefit but wouldn't have to go and sign on. All of these are actually being looked at. The campaign is recognised by all MPs and ours is working hard to secure a workable solution. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councillor Hayton.
Thank you very much, Chairman. Yes, I support the motion as well. Basically, I had my own little business and I made a little bit of money and I could retire when I was age 60 because I thought at that time I couldn't work over the 60 years of age. So I came into politics and made a nuisance of myself in this chamber and other chambers. But at the same time, I do believe that most people, including men and women, do get a rundown in their energy and enthusiasm for work. And quite frankly, in the old days, they used to get a state pension, ladies used to get a state pension at 60, men at 65. I can't see that being discriminatory because most of the ladies in my time, Chairman, used to be, majority of them, used to be at home, looking after their children and their grandchildren, as people have said before. So I'll be supporting the motion. Thank you very much.
Councillor Johnson, please.
Thank you very much, Chairman. Obviously, I'm supporting the motion. I believe this motion has been seen throughout the country by others. It's the first time we've had such detail from someone representing the Conservative government, so obviously we're very grateful. It's obviously straight from the horse's mouth, Mr McKinley, so thank you for that. I'm supporting it for a number of reasons. Those of us who are ward councillors will know that a lot of the women that we look after are dependent on housing benefit and council tax benefit, and in fact, if people don't have their own money, they're coming to us as a council to get more help than normally would be required. I went to the meeting on Saturday the 9th that Councillor Constantine organised with WASPI women, but I had one woman in particular who started to cry and I took her outside. She had realised, because she did not have the letters, she did not have the letters. She's looked after her father, first of all, from 1988. In the last few years, she's looked after her mother. She now has time for her own life, and suddenly she discovers the money she thought she'd get won't be hers at 60. That's enough for me to know that this room has to be united in it. Stop saying which government was at fault. It was equalisation up. But we campaigned years ago for women who did stay at home to mind their children. I was one of them, part-time work, but minding my children as well, and swapping minding children with my friends. And we campaigned to get that 19 years recognised when women had those duties at home. Those days are gone. I'm 67, nearly 68. Young women now expect to go out to work. They expect to get equal rights. And I think Councillor Matterface said some people will be losing about £40,000. That's a figure I was given last Saturday as well. I urge everyone in this room to support it unequivocally. Don't blame anybody. It was going to happen, but the question is that people were not notified, and actually, genuinely were not notified. That woman, for one, was one for me. Thank you.
Any more members before I go to Councillor Constantine? Councillor Constantine, please.
Okay, thank you very much. I just want to start off by saying I'm very proud to wear my sash because these women are doing an excellent job. They've raised awareness of this catastrophic set of circumstances that they face. So I want to pay tribute to them today. But I think thank you very much for your words of support on this, but this is nothing short of daylight robbery. These women have been robbed of rightfully earned pensions. I want to go back to first principles. First principles are this: when you're employed at work and when your employer asks you to defer some of your salary into a pension scheme, and then some years later you're unable to take that deferred wages, then that, to my mind, is absolute robbery. These women have paid in, year out, for the whole of their working lives. You'll know, like me, that they are concentrated, women workers are concentrated, part-time or full-time, or precarious or otherwise, but carers, caterers and cleaners, the people in our society that keep the wheels of our economy going. And they are vital, they have been vital, whether they've been in work or whether they've been in the home. They have kept those wheels rolling. The situation with this, the situation is this, that these women are complaining about the fact that this money's been removed from them, but they're also complaining that they have not had any notification. Can you imagine being in the situation where you think your pension, your hard-earned pension, is going to be paid to you, and then finding out that you're actually going to have to work another 5 or 6 years, and for what this means for some women is slogging their guts out. Women with injuries that would very much like to leave work because they feel too sick and too unwell to be at work are having to continue to work. But what does it mean for all of us? Because I would really like to have unanimous vote on this. What does it actually mean for Thanet? It means hundreds of thousands of pounds lost to our precarious local economy. Why do I say the money is lost? Because when you put money into a woman's purse, it gets spent in the local economy. Always. And when you spend £1 in the local economy, it's actually worth £1.40 to that local economy. So when this older group of workers can't go and help young parents with their grandchildren's uniforms, when they can't contribute buying a present, when they can't help out their younger family members, we'll know why, because they've been robbed of this money. Now, we have a WASPy Prime Minister. I wonder if she'll do any better. I wonder if she'll heed this. And with regard to lighter touch legislation, frankly, don't make me laugh. That sounds like soft touch legislation. Let's support these women to get the pensions that they're entitled to.
Thank you very much. Final word then, please, from Councillor Matterface.
Thank you, Chair. There seems to be some slight dispute here, but the WASPy women have done their research, and we have actually spoken to women, as Councillor Constantine has said, who were never notified of the change. They were never given a letter. They were never told that, sorry, at age 58, 57, 56, you will be working for another 8, 9, 10 years. Yes, I know Mr McKinley has had his meeting with women. I couldn't go, unfortunately. And I have to admit, actually, I'm not technically speaking in this age category. I have had my pension for a few years. But there must be ladies in here, apart from Councillor Larkins, who fall into that category, or male gentlemen who have maybe a partner or a wife who's also in that category. We have to think about them. I'm a grandmother, and I have had on occasions to help out with both my sons when times got a little bit hard. I have looked after my grandchildren on various occasions. In fact, I've got one coming for a week in the summer, coming for Folk Week. That's what grandparents do. That's what grandmothers do. I'm in the position that I can do that because A, I'm older, I've got my pension, but B, I'm not in the age category of people who are having to go out to work. When I walk down the road past Callis Grange, St Peter's School, or any of the primary schools in Thanet, you see grandparents collecting children. They're taking children to school. They're having children through half-term, you see them. They're looking after their grandchildren to enable their own sons and daughters to be able to go to work. That is the role of the grandparent. But a grandparent who can't do that because they have to go to work, they're missing out so much. So I'm asking you all, please, to support this motion and also to support the action by contacting and saying that Thanet District Council to Damien Green, that Thanet District Council has supported this motion and that we are going to support these women who are hitting critical stages in their lives. Thank you.
Thank you very much, members, for all those contributions. Do members agree to support this motion? Thank you very much.
Point of order. Can we have a vote on that, please, Chair?
You can indeed. There was a request during Councillor Constantine's words that she hoped very much there would be a unanimous support for this motion. We can check that now. Please, can we have a show of hands in favour of supporting the motion? Those against, please. Any abstentions? Thank you very much. Sorry? The motion is passed. Agenda item 8B is a motion on notice in relation to the condemnation of racism, xenophobia and hate crimes. I call upon Councillor Johnson, please.
Thank you very much, Chairman. I'd like to move the following motion and then speak to it, if I may. We're proud to live in a diverse and tolerant society. Racism, xenophobia and hate crimes have no place in our country. Thanet District Council condemns racism, xenophobia and hate crimes unequivocally, and we will not allow hate to become acceptable. The Council will continue to work to ensure local bodies and programmes have the support and resources needed to fight and prevent racism and xenophobia. We reassure all people living in Thanet that they are valued members of our community, and that's the motion which I'd now like to speak to. The motion was brought to me, and I believe other councillors, by residents who wanted us to affirm the Council's commitment to looking after all our constituents wherever they started their life's journey. It's my privilege to move it and to ask for not only your wholehearted support tonight, but also to continue to work with all our residents and statutory partners to ensure our diverse community knows we are on their side. Over many years, the Council has adopted national anti-discrimination regulations, and some of us have worked proactively within our communities to ensure we avoid some of the more serious problems faced in other areas. We have policies in place that reflect the 2010 Equalities Act, and as councillors, I hope all of us are mindful of our own responsibilities to ensure we adhere to them. In 1995, the then government's Refugee Arrivals Project sent victims of dreadful conflict in Africa to Cliftonville without contacting this council. As soon as we became aware, our chief executive and a group of us councillors held a meeting with local residents to plan how best we could all work together. That effort has never stopped. Local residents groups and our many churches then and now continue to ensure newcomers to Thanet are made to feel part of a wider integrated community. From A Better Cliftonville to the Fair Isle Project and the many initiatives through art, music, dance and sport, really positive work continues. From the young people who entertained us here at a previous council meeting to the doctors, nurses, midwives and workers on our farms, in restaurants and businesses, we want them to know we value their contribution. Foreign students and tourists who contribute so much to our economy must also know this council has supported a motion that shows we don't shy away from tackling problems that are a minority in gender. I'm also aware that the motion may not seem necessary to some people. The very fact that residents asked me to bring it to you indicates that we have to do more. I have been in contact with police liaison officers and others to continue to build on the work we started all those years ago. Some of the positive things we were doing are very much back in train, and I hope everyone tonight supports the motion and shows that we in Thanet are united in caring for all our residents and visitors. Thank you.
Thank you. Do I have a seconder, please? Thank you, Councillor Fenner. In accordance with Council Procedure Rule 3.7, a member of the controlling political group is entitled to reply. I call upon Councillor Lynn Fairbrass, please.
Thank you, Chair. I welcome the positive principles contained in the motion on behalf of the Council and believe that I speak for every one of us in this Council chamber when I say that we do not condone any form of hate crime, racial abuse or xenophobic behaviour. Thanet District Council and community safety partners are committed to tackling hate crime, which has featured as actions within community safety plans for a number of years, including initiatives such as SHARP, Stop Hate and Related Prejudice, Hate Crime Reporting Line and delivery of the Prevent programme. A number of other actions, in addition to the reporting awareness campaign, within this year's community safety plan to safeguard vulnerable people will also include awareness raising and signposting of those who could be at risk of exploitation or counter-terrorism, extending the support networks we engage with, utilising taxis and hair salons, etc., etc., encouraging active citizenship and defining what community confidence means to residents, support the community hub for minority groups. Both the police and council's community safety team, which are co-located in the council offices, continuously monitor the position and work with agencies in assessing and sharing information on a daily basis. We are reassured that local and county intelligence does not support any significant increase in hate crime. We are aware of public concerns, and in recognition of that, Kent Community Safety Partnership will be running a county campaign with other districts to raise awareness of reporting and reassurance that reports will be taken seriously. I propose that we do not need to debate this motion, as the Council is already directly engaged in working with partners and delivering programmes that support all members of our community. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Fairbrass. Do I have a seconder then not to debate the motion?
I'll second that, Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor Grove.
Point of order, Chair. Yeah, I mean, I think it's going to send a terrible message out to our community. Really, really bad message. But will I say that this actually asks the council to do something? It asks it to continue to work to ensure local bodies or programmes. If we don't debate this and if we don't pass this, yeah, are we saying that we're not going to continue? It sends the. I appreciate what you're saying, but however, if we don't debate it, this motion falls. This motion falls, and if it falls, it sends the message out to our residents that this council will not continue to ensure that local bodies and programmes have support and resources. I suggest that I'm proposing that we should debate this. No, it isn't, but it needed to be said.
Councillor Campbell, thank you very much, as always. It may well be, of course, that Council decides they don't agree with the proposal not to debate it, and we'll see that with a show of hands in just a moment. We have a proposal not to debate. It has been seconded. Can we please have a show of hands for those in favour of not debating the motion? So how many have agreed not to debate the motion? It's 54. Yeah.
And those in
Thank you. Those opposed to the proposal?
Tell the gallery to be quiet.
Yeah. Thank you, members of the public. I am trying to make myself heard. Those opposed to the proposal not to debate? Are there any abstentions? The decision not to debate has been passed, and therefore the motion has fallen. If I may, though, can I just remind everybody of the very positive words that were said during the contributions to this subject. Thank you very much. Councillor Johnson.
Thank you, Chairman. I would like to thank Councillor Fairbrass for her comments. Obviously, what she's referring to is work that's been in train in this council for a very long time. I would not have brought this motion to this council if people hadn't come to me with stories of issues that concern them in this area.
I think we understand. No,
yeah,
I think we understand that, Councillor Johnson.
So I want to thank Councillor Fairbrass for her comments, and I know she and I will work together and build on the work that went on before, so that some of the anger we've just seen leaving this room will subside. Thank you.
Thank you, and we'll leave it there. Thank you very much. We move on then to agenda item number 9, the Leader's Report. I call upon Councillor Wells, please. Councillor Bayford.
Chairman, the agenda clearly states here that the Leader of Council will make available in writing the content of his oral report to opposition group leaders no later than the Saturday before the meeting. I don't think that 8:30 on the 13th of July was the Saturday before the meeting. This is now part of our constitution, so I don't think that this is a valid item of business.
Councillor Matterface.
And I'd just like to say I agree entirely with Councillor Bayford. I did email Councillor Wells, I think it was Monday, and he said I would have it that evening. I spoke to him on Tuesday. He said I would have it Tuesday evening. It did arrive very late Tuesday evening. We have some very important issues here, and I would have liked it on Saturday. It would have given us all a little bit longer to think about what he was going to say. But I just want to say I support Councillor Bayford on that.
Thank you very much for your comments. It is, of course, very disappointing that the leader was unable to fulfil his obligations in time, as has been pointed out by 2 members. Thank you very much. However, I will ask the leader to now present his report.
Do we have a constitution or don't we? You know, this is not right. You know, I would suggest that the leader can send a written report to the leaders, and then, you know, we can see what's going on. But it's not right to have this item now. You know, you can't just play fast and loose with the constitution. Yeah.
Okay. Is it a point of order, Councillor Johnson?
Chairman, I specifically asked for this to be included, this item of the report to come on the Saturday before, when this came to our
At the risk of
working
getting
parties.
myself into further difficulty,
Yeah.
Councillor Johnson, if it's a point of order, I need to know the point, please.
Well, the point of order is that we are ignoring the Constitution.
What number is it?
And right, shall I get it
Please.
from my bag for you?
Please.
24A.
24A.
Thank
Can you
Yeah.
check that for me, please? Well, I know that.
I'm doing. I can see where it's written on the page. It's on the right-hand side, 3/4 down, and I actually asked for it to go in there. I'm just doing a Mike Harrison and pretending I know the number, but I know.
Yeah.
2.4. Yeah.
Thank you very much,
Thank you
Councillor
very much.
Johnson. You always
I asked for it to be put in
very
there
entertaining
because
as
I always
usual.
Can I just say, I always gave a full written report when I was the leader
Thank
the
you.
Saturday before
That's enough.
to all members.
That's enough. Thank you very much. Entertaining as always. A lot of facts in there somewhere. Thank you very much for your contribution. Right. Members, noting that there has been an error, I would now like to give you the opportunity to decide whether or not you as members wish to receive the leader's report and then in due time comment on it during the process. So, acknowledging there's been an error, do you wish to receive the leader's report? May I have a show of hands, please?
Those in favour, yes, those in favour, you need to say those in favour. These aren't the people in favour because you haven't said whether they vote before or against.
Oh, I beg your pardon, I thought I did.
No, you didn't.
I thought I asked for people in favour of receiving the leader's report.
That's fine, yeah.
You did say that.
Yeah, I thought I had.
Just go on with it.
Those against, please. Abstentions? The motion is passed, so I will call upon the leader, Councillor Wells, please. Councillor Bayford.
Through you to the monitoring officer, could he point me to the part of the Constitution that made what just happened correct? Because I've never seen anything like it. You know, having a vote of whether we want to hear something that's been against the Constitution, I've never experienced that in 25 years here. So I'm enjoying the new experience, but I'm not very happy about it.
Thank you, Councillor Bayford. I think you're right, we are in slightly uncharted territory here, but the Chairman's interpretation of the Constitution is final in accordance with the Constitution.
No, I'm glad to... Chairman, we have a constitution, it's the bedrock of this council, and it shouldn't be down to the chairman's interpretation. I mean, where does that end? You know, he doesn't like this rule, so he'd do it some other way. You can't do it. There is no right way to do a wrong thing, and what we've got here now is wrong.
Again, I can only say we are in uncharted territory because clearly there has been a breach and a failure to deliver the report on time. If I can have a slight bit of respect from members, it would be helpful. The answer is that, therefore, the Chairman has taken a view on the Constitution. He's asked Council what their view is. Council were quite clear they want to hear the leader's report. I think his interpretation of the Constitution it has to be accepted at the meeting.
Right, leader.
Councillor Madface.
I was just going to ask if we ignore the Constitution on this point. Can we ignore the Constitution on other points subsequently?
That's enough.
It has been noted that an error has been made.
Let's just hand over to the leader. Hand over to the leader to do
But we have... Indeed he does.
I'll step in a minute.
Indeed he does.
Get the leader
But I'm now going to invite the leader to make his report.
Can I make a comment first? First of all, as I did when I emailed the leaders, I apologise for the lateness of the report. I was actually away last week. I didn't get back here until Sunday night. I spent most of the day on Monday in London being briefed by Mr Heseltine about the Thames Estuary Commission, but I assume you don't want to hear about that. And the situation really, quite simply, straightforwardly, is that I did apologise for that error. You did have the opportunity to get back to me before now, but it's something really interesting. You want to think about it. If you want to ensure you never hear a leader's report again, we now know exactly what to do, don't we? So, is that what you want? You want to never hear a leader's report again?
No. We'd like the leader. We'd like the leader.
No, Councillor Bayford, that is not it, as I suspect you very well know. If you wish to come and discuss the matter with me afterwards, then we'll do that at a date you can set at your convenience. But we are going to make progress this evening on the decision that's been taken, and I invite again the leader to continue to bring his report.
Okay, thank you, Mr Chairman. As the whole of the national body politic seems either frozen in internecine warfare or dazzled by coronation, it seemed appropriate to focus this report on some day-to-day work of our council. So here is the most certainly incomplete but rapid survey of some of the results of the daily grind and common task officers and councillors undertake to serve residents and their concerns, all of which have happened since the last meeting. Since the last meeting, we've seen the launch of the consultation for the Council Tax Reduction Scheme, which helps residents on low incomes with council tax bills. The current scheme, introduced in 2013 as part of the Kent-wide agreement, is due to finish in March 2017. Government funding for the scheme has inevitably reduced, and the Council, along with every local authority in Kent, is consulting on options for the future. Please note there will be no change in council tax support for people of pensionable age, but as part of this 2-month consultation, the Council will contact all existing working age benefit claimants with details of proposals for them to complete and return as a survey free of charge. There will additionally be drop-in events where staff can explain how the different options might work. The results of this consultation were reported during the autumn and form part of our next budget setting process. Meanwhile, a lady called Rebecca McMillan of Boundary Road, Ramsgate, has been fined £550 for illegally dumping waste in a public pathway, following strong enforcement action by Thanet District Council officers. The fly tip was discovered in an alleyway, and council investigators traced the 29-year-old through evidence found in the rubbish. Every time someone fly tips, the council has to deploy people to clean it up, an avoidable and costly task. We thoroughly investigate all cases, and the end result can be very expensive for fly tippers as we battle to keep Thanet the very best it can be. And speaking of being the very best, Thanet's stunning sandy beaches have, since the last council meeting, once again ranked among the best in the country, in an announcement from the campaign group Keep Britain Tidy. All 7 beaches awarded the prestigious accolade in 2015 have maintained their status and will be flying the coveted blue flag for another year. The blue flag is an international benchmark of quality which is presented to beaches which meet the highest standards of cleanliness, facilities and water quality. Out of 68 beaches across the country awarded a blue flag, only the entire county of Cornwall, with 8, scored more highly than Thanet with 7. As part of presenting the best of ourselves, I also want to acknowledge the work of volunteers alongside the Council to improve and renovate parts of Broadstairs Harbour and Ramsgate Seafront and roundabouts. These volunteer help groups, with little help from TDC officers, have undertaken excellent work to spruce areas up in preparation for the tourist season, and we all owe them huge thanks for filling some of the gaps in our ranks as austerity budget decisions bite. As a council, we have added to the pain of budget cuts through the previous administration's decisions having left us weakened, as we heard earlier, with live animal exports, costing an unnecessary £5 million at a time when government support is at an all-time low. This week, I attended a briefing on the launch of the Thames Estuary Commission. As you will know, this is an extension to the Thames Gateway development area announced in this year's budget. Chaired by Lord Heseltine, who quipped he seems to have been doing this sort of thing for government forever, and I know what he means. This was the first opportunity for any of us to meet some of the commissioners. There was much comparison with the Docklands Development Corporation and indeed Blue Water as successors which had developed in an unpredictable shape and form. Reporting back to government for the autumn statement in 2017, the first two-thirds of the time available is to be spent corralling and promoting ideas, and only then to consider the nuts and bolts of delivery in shaping our places between now and 2050. Other promises include not cutting across any current schemes, including the third Thames crossing. Much was made of the importance of Treasury buy-in, the presence of a Treasury Minister upon the Commission, except, of course, we now have a new Chancellor, and I haven't checked this evening, but until the time I came in here, that individual who was on the Commission was still the Treasury Minister, but by now, I suppose, may not be. The briefing came to an abrupt end in time for the Minister to attend the crowning of the new Prime Minister at a 1922 committee meeting, as did the meeting with then DCLG Minister Greg Clark a couple of days later as he shot off to be part of the final PMQs of the Cameron era. You see, for all the best of my intention, the relatively chaotic national scene is still the essential background to what we are all trying to do. We've had a busy few weeks working to fight Thanat's corner for the Kent and Essex LEP monies. I shall be attending the LEP Accountability Board, and no, I don't know who invents the names of these boards, tomorrow to see how our projects do in the final recommendation listing and hope to confirm some funding success in due course. Officers and I have attended various meetings with police and other colleagues to prepare for a safe and successful Folk Week in Broadstairs this year. After some serious bargaining, I'm pleased to report that the de facto situation of there being in effect two events that go on at the same time in the same week has been recognised by all. Publicans will fund and be responsible around road closures, leaving the Folk Week Trustees Committee to focus purely on the Folk Festival itself. We all think that will help, although the police have been very swift to point out that we've been using the wrong legislation to enact road closures for many years, which sort of begs the question why they accepted the proposal in the first place and did not suggest an alternative at the time. However, we move inexorably to a year in the future without road closure as our aim and hope that can be sensibly achieved in future years. Such coordination issues and additionally services around rape reporting and mental health services formed the main agenda items when the new Police Commissioner Matthew Scott came to visit us for the first time. He promised to be back in November to address our Health and Wellbeing Board around mental health, and we expect early discussions regarding rape services in our area in response to Councillor Campbell's previous remarks on the subject. At the Broadstairs neighbourhood engagement meeting, someone later commented that if the hot issues were, as they seem to be in Broadstairs, dog poo and cycle riding on the pavements, it might just be worth remembering what a safe and gentle place where we all live can be. I can't argue with that. We are lucky to live where we do and should do all we can to counter careless behaviour through fly tipping or worse, preserving the best of our area for our future generations to enjoy. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Bayford.
Yeah, thank you, Chairman. Having raised the points I've raised, it would be hypocritical to indulge any further in this item, but I would just like to point out that I heard Councillor Wells say that as a result of tonight's actions, he knows how to avoid giving a leader's report. If he's virtually saying that he'll do the report when he feels like it and we can put up with it, I think that's a big disgrace.
Councillor Wells.
It isn't what I said. He knows it. Let's stick to the business.
I'm just going to make one point that Councillor Wells perhaps may not even be aware of. Having sat on the Thanet Quality Bus Partnership, I am delighted to announce that the open-top bus will be starting its cycle of Thanet next Saturday for the school holidays. Unfortunately, due to roadworks down the road from where I live, it can go from Ramsgate Boating Pool to Broadstairs Stone Bay and back again, but there are some areas along the way that don't normally have a bus service. It's going to be painted in East Kent Coach Company vintage colours. Unfortunately, those of us with bus passes, I've been told we have to pay. But I think it should be very welcome. I think it would be very popular over the summer. I don't think Councillor Wells knew about that, but Councillor Schmertzing was aware of it because I got a copy of the letter. And unfortunately, it's not coming to Margate. It's the roadworks that cause the problem. But if it is successful this year, it will definitely be back next year.
Councillor Wells, please.
No, I wasn't aware of that. Thank you for that. I think it's a very welcome addition. It's certainly something many of us have seen over the years. It might be an improvement on the last open-top bus I travelled around Thanet on, which was very old and painted purple.
Thank you. Councillor Ashby, please.
Thank you, Chair. Firstly, I would like to apologise to all the members in this room and the officers for which it involved by making the unnecessary proposal at the last full council meeting and asking for an extension of leave of absence for the former 2 councillors of the Democratic Independence Group. I was totally unaware of the facts, and I can only say that I was totally misled and fed false and fabricated information which resulted in me making a major error of judgment which led to my request to you all. Our group would like no more than to draw a line under the matter and hope that you all can allow that. We wish to continue to serve the residents within our wards to our best ability and work alongside fellow councillors to move forward in a positive way. On the subject of the blue flags, I think it's wonderful that Thanet has appeared only second in the whole country with the awards of the blue flag. The beaches are very close to my heart. I've spent many an hour water skiing out at Fulness Point, and I know that it brings a lot of money to our coastline, so that is a great achievement, and that we've passed the testing, which highlights one of our best assets in Thanet. However, as I'm sure I have received, and I'm sure a lot of other shoreside ward councillors have, a high volume of calls and emails regarding the cutting of the promenade's grassways. The grass on the esplanades, and this reaches right the way along because I actually, sad enough to go and actually measure them, reach the dizzy heights of over 10 inches. Although it is conducive to wildlife, it is not a good image for our visitors. I know this has nothing to do with the actual blue flag award, but that is the first point they see before they go to the beaches. All I would ask, and I have been asked by residents, is if they can have some sort of details of the mowing schedules so that maybe we can analyse it and see where we go from there. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Wells.
Yes, we are all aware that there have been issues with grass cutting. Issues clearly come down to 2 particular things. The first one is actually there is an element of climate change issue here. I'm going down to visit the Parks and Gardens Department in the sort of pre-Christmas visit when they were still cutting the grass in the 3rd week in December because the weather had stayed so wet and warm. And since then we've had a very wet and warm spring, which has produced enormous amounts of growth that actually overwrought the schedules that we had planned. However, there have been 2 new schedules in place for the last 2 weeks. If they're not on the website already, they will be any day now, so that people will see and hear and be able to look up for themselves without going necessarily through their councillors when the next grass cut is due or when the last grass cut took place.
Thank you. Councillor Grove, please.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, it's good to hear in the report about the blue flag. I think that's the most important factor of Thanet is our beaches and our seas, and it is great news to know that all 7 of them are in good order. Once again, I'd like to say it's good to see or hear in the report that Thanet's on its way up and not going downwards or dragging its feet. And I, at this moment in time, would like to congratulate the leader on his report. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Agenda item number 10, the report of the Chairman of the Overview and Scrutiny Panel. I call upon Councillor D. Saunders, please.
Thank you, Chairman. The report before you this evening confirms that the Overview and Scrutiny Panel has agreed to conduct most of its work through the reconstituted subcommittees the Community Safety Partnership Working Party met on the 30th of June. At the council meeting in May, I said that there was a widespread belief that scrutiny panels within district councils were toothless talking shops, and following the peer review, I am pleased that as a local authority, moves are being made to improve this perception. I have been tasked by the panel to explore alternative scrutiny arrangements, and having met with Democratic Service officers, I am in full support and endorse the proposal outlined within Agenda Item 12A this evening to introduce public speaking at overview and scrutiny meetings for a trial period. In addition to the work programme outlined within this evening's report, and following the announcement on the 18th of June regarding Sands Heritage having been placed into administration, panel members have requested to be kept fully informed of the Council's position, and we await the result of the audit investigation, which is expected in August. In conclusion, I would like to give my personal thanks for the programme of training, particularly in respect of scrutiny, that has been organised following the peer review. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councillor Johnson, please.
Thank you very much, and thank you, Councillor Saunders. I think the training we've had has been excellent. I'm not on overview and scrutiny, but I was over the years. One of the things that came across to me as being very important were these inquiry days, and I have contacted Councillor Saunders and officers about this, because I think we desperately need an inquiry day on homelessness and housing. That means that you have everybody that's involved, from Porchlight to the Beacon, everybody in one room thrashing it out for a whole day, so that we actually start to get things right. Now, Councillor Saunders did get back to me and is well aware of the problems of homelessness, both in Broadstairs and, of course, all the issues we had in Margate. I think we need to use these inquiry days that were recommended at that overview and scrutiny training to once and for all have everybody in the room. I hear feedback from organisations that are our partner organisations that they think we could all do a lot better. Thank you.
Agenda item number 11 then, single district statement of intent. I call upon Councillor Wells, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. As councillors will be aware, because we've talked about this in principle and there have been briefings, this is a report that is commonly going to all of the 5 East Kent District Councils during the course of, I think, the next 2 weeks. I think it's all done by the end of July, I know that. So that's to ourselves. I think we're the first, Shepway, Canterbury, Ashford and Dover, and is the logical next step in the open-ended conversations that we have been having about the possibility of taking advantage of A, the government's devolution agenda, and B, looking for a better and firmer financial footing for both residents and all of those 5 councils into the relatively uncertain future. This report effectively asked for a very straightforward thing: each of the councils to contribute £20,000 of funding from their reserves in order to actually support the preparation of a business case, which will actually mean we will all be informed in facts and figures as to what the advantages and disadvantages of such a proposal will be in financial terms and in terms of political governance and the governance of the whole of the East Kent area. East Kent is recognised as an economic area in its own right. It does have a distinct geographical boundary, which in this case actually co-locates with the CCGs and the NHS, perhaps for the first time in many years. And Kent itself is on the verge of having 3 groupings across the county as a whole. East Kent working together, West Kent working together, which effectively is Sevenoaks, Tunbridge and Tunbridge Wells. And then there's North West Kent, which started life as Dartford, Gravesham and Medway. And then we found that Swale and eventually Maidstone joined North West Kent, partially I think because they didn't know which way to look. But the truth is that dealing in these sort of clusters seems to be the way that people are moving forward and getting cost savings on contracts, cost savings on commissioning, and working more closely with the county council itself. This particular proposal is not a devolution proposal per se. It is about better efficiencies and more effective running of the district council itself. And we have to bottom out to find out whether there is a real business case for making it happen that would save residents money without diminishing the levels of service they might expect to have. As part of that, I would also have to point out that part of the inevitability of such a change would be that there is a stronger role for parish councils and town councils, and that as part of that there may well be certain powers that are devolved down to parish and town council level in order to ensure that some of the things that most benefit from being done locally continue to be done locally. And we're looking there at not just things like toilets and parks and those sort of things, but actually a devolution perhaps of some minor planning areas, so that garages and extensions and window changes might be decided locally, and possibly single houses or groups of up to 5 houses going to the parish councils to make decisions as and when they are able, simply because some of those decisions are best done locally. And having a strong series of parish councils in place is almost implicit as part of this particular proposal. I don't want to say very much more because actually I'm sure everybody has an idea of what they think this might or might not look like. The whole point of this proposal is that we should actually then employ some independent people to assess what the proposal might mean in reality and bring that back with some real flesh to the bones rather than the rather looser conversations perhaps we've all been having today. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Is there a seconder, please?
I'll second.
Thank you. Councillor Constantine, please.
Thank you for that. Interesting topic. I've got just 2 points to make, but I was a bit alarmed by the issue of making most efficient running, because we seem to be running very lean just right at this moment. So I do wonder whether we can squeeze any more blood out of that particular stone. But the 2 points that I wanted to raise, given that this is a public document, can this be made more clear? Because in the recommendations at point 2, provide an additional 2,000 funding, 20,000 funding. What was the existing spend that was agreed? Is there an anticipation that we'll be able to stick within this budget, or do we think that this budget in fact might not be enough given the breadth of the territory that it's proposing to cover? I think we need not to have our hands tied by a budget that's too low, but also I think that needs to be reasonable. And then on the point of the scoring system that's in place here, what does that mean? Is 5 the highest or 5 the least? We need a clearer explanation of that. And also, one other point that I'd like to raise, which is when you talk about these sort of proposals and you talk about back office shared service functions, I think we need to be minded to make sure that our staff of the council are looked after in this process and reassured, because it's difficult for Thanet to recruit staff. We don't want staff that we have recruited feeling afraid and moving elsewhere. We want to retain the talent that we've got.
Thank you.
I can answer some bits and the leader.
I was going to go to Councillor Payford for comments. Do you want
to answer things first? Yeah, I think we answered.
Okay.
So I'll go first.
Fair enough.
If I may respond to some of your questions, Councillor Constantine. I think the wording additional is probably potentially misleading. I think what we're actually asking for is 20,000 from general reserves to actually pay towards the business case at this stage. Now, clearly, that is just literally to pay for doing the work around the business case. There is potential in the future that there may be a requirement to spend further funding, but we would come back separately on that issue should that be the case. The issue about the risk, 5 is the highest, so it is 1 to 5, and that's the approach that we've taken. And can I just make a comment regarding your statement about staff? Clearly, obviously, staff have been briefed along with members around this issue. We will be keeping them informed. We do value them entirely highly, and as part of our workforce strategy we would be ensuring we're preparing them to be best placed to take any opportunities that come up as a result of this. I think it's fair to say that our expectation is that any issues affecting staff are more likely to be at the senior level rather than to be lower down, because we'd still be serving the same population. So we will be very conscious of that.
Councillor Wells? No.
Yeah, thank you, Chairman. I actually welcome this. It's something that in various forms has been spoken about for years. Various combinations of the East Kent councils have been talking about this, and I think it's absolutely vital that we move on this now. It's going to become increasingly difficult for a council the size of Thanet to operate efficiently. There's no doubt about that. It doesn't matter which government we've got. I think the mood is clear, or the direction is clear, that there's going to be less funding available. We're going to have to make better use of resources, and by coming together we will get economies of scale. I personally think that £20,000 is a small price to pay, but equally £520,000 is £100,000. So I'd like an assurance that we won't be spending any more than that. I mean, I think we should get a pretty good report for that sort of money. I'm also glad to hear the leader say that this isn't necessarily part of the devolution agenda. Obviously it may contribute to it, but there are obviously lots of other facets. And I think particularly mentioned tonight, the Thames Gateway Commission, and it's interesting that Canterbury and Thanet of the 5 districts are mentioned in connection with that. So it may well be that at the end of the day there's a totally different grouping that we may want to be part of. But I think that this is the right first step, and I think we should just get on with it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Bedford. Councillor Hayton, please.
Thank you very much, Chairman. Yes, I think that we've been here before, and it was a failed before, where they combined everything together, all these districts. First, Shetway went adrift, then it was Ashford went away adrift. They weren't promising, there's bits out there that we can all join together. Quite frankly, I'm a believer in parish politics. Get it evolved down to the lowest dimension you can do, like the parishes and the council, the town councils, because they know what their people want more than we do in this room. There's people in this room don't know what Broadstairs and St Peters need. Perhaps I don't, but I'm sure there's people in this room that do. And quite frankly, I can't go along with this situation where we'll fall adrift, we'll spend 20,000, chasing it around and round and round, and come to the conclusion it's not worth the salt it's made out to be. And quite frankly, I doubt whether Kent County Council itself would let go of anything. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Ken Gregory, please.
Thank you, Chairman. Yeah, of course you can.
Yeah, I think that's probably where it started, because where it started, the sort of evil word unitary was breathed. And at that point, certain members of Kent County Council threw their toys out the pram and went walkabout. But I would have to tell you, in the last workshops we've had, the last 2 workshops we've had, both Paul Carter as leader of Kent County Council and his Director of Economic Development and her team have been part of those conversation discussions. And we were both, the East Kent leaders and Paul Carter, in the office of the then DCLG Minister Greg Clark on Wednesday morning, assuring them that we were all of the same mind, that we would look at this sensibly, and most of the emotion and the heat has already gone out of it. So, I mean, we are beyond where we've been before, although, like you, I remember how it's happened before.
Thank you again, Chairman. Yeah, broadly, this is a good idea. I think it's true to say that no change is not an option. We have to change. We have to look at the future. But we have to take some things into account. And by saying some things, I say that advisedly, because we are looking at one option. We need to spread that view and look at any option that's available to us. All right, concentrate on this one for now. It's coming back to council according to the Constitution. Oh, sorry, maybe it's not. But it is coming back to the council. So we can have the in-depth discussion then as to what this particular plan is like. But what we mustn't forget is that there are other plans out there, and of course there are the residents out there. Now, what do the residents want? It's all very well us saying, oh, this is our plan, this is what we're going to do, but it's the residents that have to live with it, and they're the ones that have to approve it, if you like. Otherwise, no councillors, whether you've got 20 or 56 or 60 in the area, will get elected again. It'll be another bunch of people and we'll all reinvent the wheel. Because if you speak to most of the people of Thanet, they don't mind fraternising with the people of Canterbury, but they certainly don't want to be joined at the hip.
Thank you for the acknowledgement that this is the sensible option to look at first. I suspect if I'd come here with a proposal to spend £100,000 to look at all 5 options, you might have a different view on what we should do and how we should do it. This is the most obvious one. This is the one where we've actually got the most agreement. And during the time we're looking at this, we might just find that things in the Thames Estuary proposal come forward and give us an entirely different outlook on life. Whether or not that would involve being joined at the hip with Canterbury or not, I don't know. I was assured privately by a civil servant I spoke to this week that the reason Canterbury was in that proposal was they could get it down to us. But don't tell them that, because they think it's about them.
Councillor Johnson, please.
Thank you very much, Chairman. I was in the fortunate position that I went to 2 of these presentations about this. I was for the whole of the first one, and then I was early for another meeting, so saw a little of the second one. Maybe I'm wrong, but I thought there was a figure of £40,000 mentioned by Mrs. Homer, so maybe I've got that wrong. But I've recently had a brain scan where I was told my brain was in terrific working order, so I think I got that right. I won't tell you what he said, but it's doing fine, thank you. But, Mr. Chairman, there was an issue on the night, and Councillor Gregory has touched on it. I don't think I was the only person on the first night, and I think someone may, even Councillor Gregory, have said it on the second night, that we weren't going to just see about the 5, that there might be even more options given to us this evening to have in mind. And I thought I'd come, by the time I got to read this report, that there would be more to it than just about the 5 East. And I can hear what the leader is saying, but I actually thought we might have a little synopsis of the others, because I know my preferred option. We do have to do something. We have to get on with it. There was also, I understand, a meeting at KCC this morning. Don't suppose anybody knows what they came up with when they were there. Thank you.
The CEO will respond to you.
You're correct. I did say 40,000 at those briefings, because at that time that was the figure that was being discussed. Since then it's been revised down to 20,000. Okay. In respect of the options, I think I did pick up at the briefings as well that we expect that there is a possibility that other options will come out of the business case itself. It's difficult to be looking at those at this stage. We need to understand the business case based on this main option, and then from that, depending on the pros and cons of that option, other options may come forward. So I think it's fair to say that certainly from my perspective, and I'm sure the leader will correct me if I'm wrong, we are willing to look at what comes out of that business case in relation to other options if the 5 doesn't go ahead, but we'll have to wait and see what the business case says. I can't comment on the KCC meeting, so I'm not sure which one that is.
Yeah, I mean, I think the fact of the matter was that we were the first council in the list of councils to meet, and at the time our paperwork was due to go to print. The range of figures ran between 20 and 40,000 each. We were waiting for the final quotes to come back. That has now come down at the lower figure of 20,000 because we have got the final quote back or whatever. So, you know, saving money already. The issue about other options is quite simply and straightforwardly is at this moment we have the agreement of the 5 councils to explore this option. And only as and when we've explored that option will people then start to look at what the other potential add-ons, bolt-ons, removals or whatever may be. And the other thing that we know with absolute certainty is that if your preferred option relates to a unitary, then the Secretary of State, as it stands, or as it stood, might be different now, made it quite clear that unitaries were not on the table as far as he was concerned for Kent. And indeed, as soon as you go towards a unitary option, that usually sends the Kent County Council into combative mode. So at the moment, that is where we are. and we need to look and see what the efficiencies and the advantages and benefits of this are. And as I say, if that comes up with the suggestion that says, actually, if you do X, we'll be much better off because of this, that and the other, we will look at it at that particular point.
Councillor Matterface, please.
Thank you, Chair. Just a couple of quick questions. I think it's important to appreciate that the 100,000 between the 5 councils that is being possibly agreed could be lost. I think that's important. People realise that if plans change, that money could be lost. I'd also like to ask the Leader, I attended a briefing of Kent Labour leaders at KCC a few weeks ago. I would like to know what he sees the role of KCC. I mean, as you said, they're not going to give up without a fight. I did hear that KCC would have a strategic role. Now, I'm not exactly sure what that means and whether they came to that decision this morning, what they mean by that. But could you possibly also enlighten us why it says quite categorically a unitary council is not under consideration? In fact, that's in bold on page 27.
Working backwards, unitary council is not under consideration because the Secretary of State made it clear that he would not approve one. Okay, so I mean, there seems a little point in us spending £20,000 exploring what to do about a unitary if we know at the end of the day the Secretary of State is going to say, don't do it. If, however, we pursue this, which does have, did have his blessing, because I don't know who the new one is at the moment. Maybe tell me? No? DCLG? No? Okay. With George Osborne gone, I mean, the whole devolution agenda might not be there anymore. Who knows? But to go back to what Councillor Bayford said, there is a huge economic driver at play here. By the time we get to 2020, 2021, and councils are seeing government grant vanish and they're surviving on council tax and business rate income only, we particularly, of those 5 East Kent councils, I suggest, are going to have pretty much of a big fight on our hands to actually deal with it. And as such, we need to think carefully about how we intend to manage the future of this council, given that we have some of the most disadvantaged people who live here, but we have the second highest rate of Band D council tax amongst those 5 councils. So there are potentially benefits for our residents in doing something like this. And, sorry, just back to category, because I forgot, is that, yes, of course it goes to the public thereafter. The problem is, you know, you can't go to the public with a blank sheet of paper and say, what do you think about doing X or Y? Because, you know, so, you know, we have to go with a proposal they can look at with consideration, know what it means. That will inevitably come out of that, and unless we can get public buy-in, we won't be doing it at all. Kent County Council is the strategic authority. There are other forms of strategic authority throughout the country. Many of them, if they are moving on devolution deals, have elected mayors. Am I allowed to say that? Like people throwing fruit? You know, because actually elected mayors in 2-tier authorities tend to be a bit of an anathema. If you look across the country as a whole, Cornwall has one model, Greater Lincolnshire has another model, Greater Manchester has another model, East Hampshire has a different model. Hampshire and Manchester worked on their model for about 10 years. Before they actually got to the point where they got permission. And the only place in the country which has not got a devolution deal from the government without an elected mayor is Cornwall. And even now, I understand there's a lot of tooth-sucking going on about whether or not they would be asked to do so. So, you know, devolution is a different sort of debate, although this will involve, as I said before, as Bill Hayton said, about parish pump politics, and going down to getting as many of the services as you can down to local levels at parishes, because that is the area where people feel they can come, they can knock on the door, they can comment, they can actually see things happening and get a much greater reaction, and that will be part of it. I am assured that the new Communities Minister is Sajid Javid. Is that right? Yeah, it is, and I have no idea, perhaps you can tell us what his view of devolution is, but I've no doubt that I'll be talking to him about it in due course. And we shall see. Okay.
Councillor Taylor-Smith, please.
Thank you very much, Chairman. I'd first like to say I was very sorry to actually have missed the briefing last week. I was on holiday. I did give my apologies. Obviously, I've read all this, and I think it's absolutely right that the Council is proceeding along these lines, actually, because I have read in the past, it may change now, of course, that if councils don't make some moves towards some sort of working together arrangements or devolution or whatever you like to call it, they can be imposed, and they might be. But I'm sure that we will avoid that. I'd like to suggest, as possibly has been agreed, a recommendation to, if we could remove the "an additional" and just make it £20,000 if members agree on that. And I'd just like to ask the Chief Executive, please, and for an approximate time frame. I understand a paper is going to be prepared for Cabinet and the business case will be brought back to Council. Any suggested time of when that might be? Because looking at the last point, if agreed, this arrangement is hopefully going to be implemented before the next elections in 2019. And my last comment, Mr. Chairman, 1.7, East Kent is continuing to work with Kent and Medway in many areas of commonality and mutual benefit. That sounds lovely, but what exactly does it mean? Thank you.
If I can just answer the first two questions, Chairman. The additional, I accept it's misleading, but actually it's referring to an additional 20,000 to our budget. That's why that word is in there. But I accept that it's misleading in the sense that people think it's an additional amount of money on top of money we've already spent, which actually is not the case. So just for clarity, it's 20,000 for the business case, but it's additional to our budget. We're expecting the business case to be finalised towards the end of the year, so we would be expecting it to be coming back to Council January, February 2017.
Oh, 1.7, I think I have to explain that this has been through all 5 leaders, all 5 chief executives, all 5 Section 1.5 all officers or whatever, and there are bound to be some sentences in there which I think are there for fluff rather than reality. But the truth is actually that particular sentence does actually work. We have Kent leaders and chiefs meetings, we have East Kent Regeneration Board meetings, we have meetings with other clusters, and we do work together on trying to achieve some of these things where we can achieve economies of scale and work on shared services or whatever. And whatever happens with this, that will continue because that is a cost saving in itself as we share some of those expenses.
Thank you. Councillor Evans, please.
Yeah, while I'll be supporting the principle of the business case, I'm totally against this because the people of Thanet will effectively lose control of their area. We will be effectively run by Canterbury and Ashford and be at the mercy of the decisions that are made at a higher level. This is a similar principle to the EU. We are getting bigger. It's the same principle as the United States of Europe. Why can't we buy into these services? If we want to rationalise our waste, why can't we have local agreements? The actual way that I look at it is Thanet is going to lose its identity. The people of Thanet are going to lose their democratic right to have a council running them who they vote for. I'm totally against it.
Councillor Wells?
Yeah, who was it said? UKIP had no whip? The situation is pretty straightforward, is that all of those things that were talked about there actually do happen in terms of shared services and getting the best economies of scale we can across the piece. But it still remains that across the piece of these 5 councils we have something like 225 councillors, we have 5 chief executives, we have probably about 40 different directors of services or whatever, and that in itself forms a cost saving as we move forward into the future. And indeed, the range of council tax paid in between the different districts is astonishingly wide. Ashford has one of the lowest council tax levels in the country, and as I say, we're at the very top end of the 5, which, you know, given the state of our particular area, I think is really rather sad. We do have wonderful conversations with Ashford and Canterbury. Ashford have a lot of income come from housing growth, and they seem to be worried that Thanet will want to mop it up, and Canterbury have lots of savings. They've been around a long time, and you know, they're worried that we might want to mop that up, and I have promised to say thank you, but that doesn't seem to convince them. Look, there will still be elected councillors in Thanet. They will still have the opportunity to fight their corner in exactly the same way they would in this particular room. And if we get the structure and the governance right, and we get the parish council structure that runs underneath it right, doing the immediate things that are of most concern to most people, we could find ourselves with a much better service at a much lower cost. But we have to find out whether that's true or not And that's what this proposal tonight is about.
Councillor Shonk, please.
Well, unfortunately, I disagree with everything that's been said tonight. You laugh, but every one of you here represent your people that vote you in. You're going to hand all this over to a big consortium of people that it's going to be too big to care. One of these people that you're going to got commissioned for Thanet, they do work for KCC and they do preferential rates. So are we going to get preferential rates? 20,000, 40,000. Where's it going to stop? I like our Ramsgate Town Council of all political colours. It works well for Ramsgate. I go to my parish councillors' meetings. They all work well. All of you sitting around here are going to rubber stamp this. It's got another tier of authority. I've been at KCC all day. We've been talking about the same things today. If you want to bore yourselves to tears, go on the website and watch KCC today about the same things. We're sitting down here. I don't think we give ourselves enough time to sit about and listen what the people of Thanet want. I mean, I'm only a part of this. You're just going to rubber stamp, so it's going to be less is more, but it's not going to happen. All you're going to do is make a much bigger unitary authority, and they won't care. That's my point. That's what I'm going to say on this. I like my Ramsgate Town Council. I love my parish councils. You're going to walk all over them. Yeah. Localism bill. Everybody seems to be forgetting about this localism bill. It means that people outside can have a say what they want. You're sitting here making other people's arrangements. Sorry, I disagree with it. Thank you.
Councillor Wells.
Of course, Trevor, you wear 3 hats, don't you? Yeah, I manage 4, so come on. 3 hats. Ramsgate Town Council, who, if you listen carefully to what we said, would get more powers and more ability to do things in Ramsgate, which is something I think they've been asking for some particular time. And then you said that a joint junction of 5 East Kent councils would be a more remote and distant authority. I'm not sure that to a lot of people in your other hat you don't belong to the most remote and distant authority up at Kent.
Can I come back?
Campbell.
Yes, thank you, Chair. Yeah, I'd like to congratulate the leader. I mean, it's very magnanimous of him, actually, to cede political responsibility from the only council that UKIP run in the country to the inevitable Conservative-led unitary East Kent 5 that will replace this council. Congratulations. I'm in full support of it. Not necessarily for the Conservatives, but for the demise. I'll have to rethink this speech, I think.
Councillor Campbell, you can't join the Conservative Party for £3, but if you're quick, you can rejoin Labour in the next couple of days.
It costs £25 for us now.
Councillor Larkins, please.
One thing springs to mind is the Port of Ramsgate. Should that be able to get fully operational again in the near future? What's Dover's point on this? You know, they're going to want to direct all the money into Dover and not going to give Ramsgate a chance for the port. And at the moment, Dover are trying to, applying to get a big chunk of the Goodwin Sands so they could expand the Port of Dover. I just see that the Port of Ramsgate just being made completely redundant. Thank you.
Councillor Wells.
I don't think anybody has probably made the case for the Port of Ramsgate more vocally or more often than I have, particularly in the last year when we were heading for Operation Stack, when we were asked if we'd park 500 lorries on the Port of Ramsgate, and I said no, but I'd move 500 lorries through the Port of Ramsgate if the government would give us a ship in order to do it. And at that point, the Port of Dover got terribly interested and the government went away and did something different. There is an opportunity here, it seems to me, and the opportunity is that if we are able to join any conjunction of other councils that has a working port within it, and it goes in as one of the assets that they can manage and deal with, we will do quite well. And that is what we are aiming to do, and that is what we're aiming to put in place, so that even if this doesn't happen, the Port of Ramsgate will be operating as a proper and effective port, as it hasn't done for several years. I would also make the point that Dover Council doesn't actually own Dover Port. It is the Dover Harbour Board. But I think the case that needs to be made is quite a simple one, and we've seen it time after time after time, and that is that the whole concept of having a strategic link from here to Europe, whether we're in the EU or not, there's still going to need to be a strategic link from here to Europe. In my lifetime, there were 7, 8, 10, 12 ports that you could actually choose to go from. Putting that strategic link down one road called the M20, ending in 2 channels, one from the port and one from the tunnel, leads to disaster. And I think that disaster has been slow in the cooking, has been slower in the solving, and I don't think the solving is going to be a damn great lorry park stuck somewhere down in the corner of Shetway, because that appears to be where it's going to be. Contract signed or not, there has to be better ways for us to look at strategic use of the South Coast, strategic use of our ports. We go back to my Navy days. If I was a naval planner, what we have done is get ourselves at an absolute risk of total destruction of our ability to contact anybody on the continent by putting it all through the one damn road and the one damn spot. We need to do something different, and it's about time the government woke up to that, and maybe that's something else I'll talk to Mr Javid about in due course.
Thank you very much for all those contributions. Can I ask the members to agree with the recommendation? Agenda item 12, constitutional changes revolving public speaking at meetings. I move that Council adopts the draft public participation scheme as outlined in Annex 1 of the report and agrees to amend the Council's constitution as outlined at Annex 2 of the report. Would the Vice Chairman please second?
Second that.
Do members agree? Thank you. Of prescribed standing orders relating to the dismissal of statutory officers. I move that Council agree the modifications to the prescribed standing orders relating to staff as set out in Appendix 1 and that they be incorporated into the Council's constitution, and that the Council does not appoint a standing panel to deal with dismissals but appoints a panel on an ad hoc basis as required. Would the Vice Chairman please second?
Seconded.
Councillor Bayford.
I've got to ask this, Chairman. You've made 2 changes to the Constitution. Are they new rules or just another set of kind of guidelines you can interpret how you like, when you like?
I think insofar as it involves a meeting such as this, it was made clear earlier that the Chairman's ruling and interpretation stands. Do members agree? Agenda item 12B? Thank you very much. 12C, East Kent Services Delegations. I move that Council approve the proposed amendments to the delegations as shown in the report. Would the Vice Chairman please second?
Seconded.
Do members agree? Thank you. Agenda item 13, changes to committees, panels and boards. Members please refer once more to the supplementary agenda number 1. The subject of proportionality, I call upon the leader to make a proposal in respect of the options as outlined in the report.
I would like to propose option 3, Mr Chairman, please.
Is there a seconder?
No second.
Alternative option? Option 3 has been proposed and seconded. Do members agree? Thank you. Committees, I call upon the leader to advise of his nominations to committees, panels and boards for the remainder of 2016-17.
I believe under option 3 there are no changes to my committees, panels and boards, Mr Chairman.
So he has got to.
Yeah, so there's
I think you do need to make a change. Councillor Lees?
Councillor Lees is left.
I'm sorry, Councillor Lees is still on the list, so for wherever Councillor Lees is mentioned, can we please substitute Councillor Potts? Potts, little number 2.
Councillor Ashby? No?
General purposes, Councillor Ashby. B and EA Working Party, Councillor Ashby. Constitutional Review Working Party, Councillor Eleanor.
Thank you. Councillor Grove?
Hey, Chairman, no change.
Thank you, members. That concludes the business for this meeting of the Council.